Subtlety rogues are masters of hiding in the shadows and striking from the unseen. I'm going to show you everything you need to know to succeed in the War Within Season 1 today. It's going to be beginner friendly, but it's also going to be very in-depth for those veterans watching. Let's start off with the stat priority then, getting straight into this. Our main stat is, of course, agility. You're going to want a higher and higher eye level or item level of gear to get more agility and better secondary stats. I'll put the priority of the secondary stats here. However, I want you to follow these quite loosely, as you should only really be actually, thinking which item is better if it's the same eye level. A higher eye level is generally always going to be better, no matter the secondary stats. And you should be simulating your character if you know how to work out which is better anyway. If you don't know how, then you're probably a beginner and you don't need to worry about that. It's honestly fine. So looking at our secondary stats then, we have versatility is the same no matter what class you play in WoW. It increases damage and healing done, and it reduces damage taken. Mastery, as subtlety, is executioner, increasing the damage done by our finishing moves. The higher the percentage, the higher our mastery, or the other way around. Well, the same. So you can see here we've got three little combo point holes, five holes, combo points. Whenever you have some attacks that are combo point generators, and you're going to generate some of those combo points. And then we have combo point finishers, which will spend those combo points to deal more damage, basically. And that's what our mastery does. Our finishers will deal more damage for the more mastery we have. Critical strike, of course, giving us a chance to do more damage. Haste is actually going to increase our attack speed, so how quickly we're attacking, and also our energy regeneration, which is the main resource we're going to be spending to use our abilities as a rogue. While we're here, let's have a little quick look at the set bonus we're getting in Season 1 of the War Within. If you don't know what these abilities are, I will be fully explaining them in the rotation part, so stay with me here. 2 set bonus, Symbols of Death, increases the damage of your next secret technique. And the 4 set bonus, Secret Technique, then increases the damage of your other finishing moves by 16% for 7 seconds. Basically, Symbols of Death increases your Secret Technique increases the damage of your other finishing moves. Quite simple on the set bonus in Season 1. So now we're going to look through the utilities and some of the defensives, etc. that we have available to us as a rogue in the War Within. I do want to say these are not all of them. These are the ones that I think are the most important and that you should know about. And once you're more comfortable with your specialization, or just with rogue in general, I would say to just go through the spellbook here and just see what you have available. The same will be with the talents for the rogue side of the talent tree as well, as that is going to be the same on all 3 specs. So, on the left then, we have first, of course, stealth. We as a rogue can go into stealth whenever we want outside of combat. There are a few abilities I'll be showing you in the rotation where we can do it in combat as well, but for now we're sticking to what we can do whenever the hell we want. Now, of course, enemies will not be able to see us when we are in stealth, and we can sneak past most of them. Another interesting ability we have is our kick. This is an interrupt, and a lot of interrupts in the game are actually sometimes called kick because of this spell. It's kind of become the de facto name for interrupts. This is going to interrupt any spellcasting that your enemy is doing, and it's very, very important in both PvP and Mythic Plus. Generally in raiding it's less important, or you'll be using it less, but it is still good to know about. We then have Crimson Vial. Drink an alchemical concoction that heals you for 20% of your maximum health over 4 seconds. This can be seen as a defensive cooldown. However, it is only on a 30-second cooldown. And then we have Cold Blood on a 45-second cooldown. So it's another mini cooldown, if you will. Increases your critical strike chance of your next damaging ability by 100%, meaning you're going to get a guaranteed crit on your next attack. Over on the right then, we've got Evasion, increasing your dodge chance by 100%, and that is on a 2-minute cooldown, so that's a defensive ability. We have Sprint, increasing your movement speed by 100% for 12 seconds. You can also use this while you are stealthed, and it's a really great way to get from A to B in certain fights. We've also then got, speaking of stealth, Cloak of Shadows. This basically provides a moment of magic immunity, instantly removing all harmful spell effects. The cloak lingers, causing you to resist harmful spells for 5 seconds. And lastly, Subtlety, restoring 100 of your energy. And your mastery is going to be increased by 13.6% for 6 seconds. So energy is the main resource that you can see I've got here as a rogue. And of course, our mastery we spoke about in the stat priority section. And you have got 3 charges of this. Now, like I said, there's loads of other utilities you've got as a rogue. We have things like Shroud of Concealment, where basically you can give your entire party stealth as long as they stay within the shroud. Kidney Shot, Feint, Blind, Cheap Shot, Distract, Sap, Shadow Step, Tricks of the Trade, Pickpocket, Picklock, Kidney Shot. These are all the utilities that you have available as a rogue. But as this is a beginner video, I'm not going to overwhelm you with what all of these do. These are the main ones that I would say you should know about. Really, you could argue that Shroud of Concealment is another one. That is another really fantastic one. If I do go into stealth, you can see your allies that are inside this huge circle will also be stealthed for the duration, and it is for 15 seconds. So that's a good way that your whole entire group can get past enemies undetected. But it is on a 6-minute cooldown, so you can't use it over and over in quick succession. Now let's look at the actual full rotation we will be using and the utilities we have in our toolbox to, kill everyone actually, because it's PvP. So before you actually go into combat, we want to do a few little things to prepare. You're going to want to apply your wound and your crippling poison. Wound poison basically is actually going to have a chance to do some damage, but also reduce the healing your enemy takes. And crippling poison has a chance to slow them when you attack as well. Apart from that, before the gates open, we want to, of course, go into stealth. There are some abilities, especially as a subtlety rogue in the War Within, that we can only use from stealth. One of them is our combo point builder here, Shadow Strike. There's a few others as well. If you don't know how rogues work, we have energy that we spend on our abilities. Some will generate combo points, and then some will spend those combo points, dealing more damage or having a greater effect for the more combo points we use. So how we're actually going to generate our combo points? Well, we have first Cheap Shot. It generates a 1 combo point and stuns the target for 4 seconds. Very simple. We then have Shadow Strike, which we can only use from stealth. Strike for physical damage. While stealthed, you strike through the shadows and appear behind your target, dealing 25% additional damage. This awards 3 combo points, which is massive. And that is why we love stealth so much. Backstab, you need to stab them in the back. Dealing damage, it's increased when you're behind them. And critical strikes apply Find Weakness for 10 seconds. This here is Find Weakness. Your stealth abilities reveal a flaw in your target's defenses, causing all your attacks to bypass 30% of that target's armor for 10 seconds. And again, there it does say all of your stealth abilities, meaning, again, we're going to be doing a lot more damage when we're in stealth and coming out of stealth because of the Find Weakness talent. Apart from that, we have Shiv. This is another fantastic one for generating combo points. Attack with your offhand weapon, dealing damage and dispelling all enrage effects on the target, and applying a concentrated form of your crippling poison, guaranteeing that you're reducing their movement speed by 84%. Apart from that, we can use Shuriken Storm. As you can see here, it's an AoE ability. Spray shurikens at all enemies within 10 yards, dealing damage, and awards a combo point per target here. Because it's instant as well. I mean, a lot of these are, but I feel like Shuriken Storm is just a lot easier to bounce around and use as well. And lastly, Shuriken Toss, a thrown ability where you throw a shuriken at a target and again award a combo point. And these are our combo point generators. How are we then going to spend those combo points? We've got Kidney Shot, stunning them for a longer duration, the more combo points we use. Rupture, something we want to use and keep up at all times. Finishing move that deals bleed damage. It does more bleed damage the more combo points you use. Slice and Dice, keep this up at all times as well. It's going to increase your attack speed by 50%. Longer duration for the more combo points you use. Up to 7 points is 48 seconds. So it really can last a long time. And then we have Eviscerate, finishing move that disembowels the target. Oh, how lovely. Causing damage per combo point, and it just does more damage the more points we use. And one thing to mention here as well is that targets with Find Weakness suffer an additional 30% damage. So you do want to get that Find Weakness up on them and then actually use your Eviscerate. Lastly, we have Secret Technique, finishing move on a 1 minute cooldown, this one, that creates shadow clones of yourself, and you all attack basically, dealing physical damage to the primary target and then reduce damage to other targets. For every combo point you then spend thereafter, it will actually reduce the cooldown of Secret Technique as well. And again, more damage for more combo points. That is really the main kind of rotation you're going to be using. Kidney Shot is more utility because it's a stun, but keep Rupture up, keep Slice and Dice up, and then use your Eviscerate and then Secret Technique whenever you can as your finishers. And again, Cheap Shot is more utility because it's a stun. Use Shadow Strike whenever you're in stealth, like when you go into combat, or when you use your Shadow Dance and Vanish, which I'll go over shortly. And then your other ones, depending on the situation, for generating combo points. Speaking of going into stealth then, we have Shadow Dance on a 1 minute recharge. 2 charges of it, allows the use of all stealth abilities and grants all the combat benefits of stealth, and increases damage done by 30%, which is really good for when you want to start going in and bursting down your enemy. We can also then use Shadows or Symbols of Death, invoke Ancient Symbols of Power, generating 40 energy, and again increasing damage done by 10%, and it's only on a 30-second cooldown. With that as well, we can use Fistful Tea. So imagine you've used these, you're going into your burst, you're doing a lot more damage, and then we can use Fistful Tea to restore 100 energy and increase our mastery by 20% for 6 seconds as well. And there's another 3 charges on there. Another way of going into stealth is Vanish. Basically, you vanish for a few seconds into stealth, not just as well for being able to use your stealth abilities, but also you're literally going into stealth. Your enemy will not be able to see you. Another 2 charges on there. And lastly, Sepsis. On a 1.5 minute cooldown, infect a target's blood, dealing nature damage over 10 seconds and gaining 1 use of any stealth ability. If the target survives its full duration, they suffer an additional amount of damage and you gain an additional use of any stealth ability. So we do have a lot of ways of actually getting into stealth or using those stealth abilities, even when we're not actually going into combat from stealth. The cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds if Sepsis does not last its full duration, like if it kills them off. And that will actually award a combo point as well. So we've got a lot of things in our toolkit there. It's fairly straightforward, a lot of burst potential on these cooldowns. Looking at our utilities, we've got, Sprint for going super duper fast and getting out of dodge. Kick is our interrupt. We've got Shadow Step, where you, as you can see, step through the shadows to appear behind your target and increasing movement speed. Cloak of Shadows, removing any harmful effects and giving you magic immunity for a few seconds. Crimson Vial, healing you over a few seconds for about 20% of your health, and Evasion, increasing your dodge chance by 100%. So some really good utilities there as well. Looking at the PvP talents we're going to be using, I love Smoke Bomb. It's on a 2 minute cooldown. Creates a cloud of fixed smoke in an 8-yard radius around the rogue. Enemies are unable to target in or out of it. So imagine they're trying to burst you down. You pop that smoke bomb and they can't target you. Imagine they pop Bloodlust or something like that. And then they're kind of done for then, which is really, really good. And then we've got another one on a 2 minute cooldown, Shadowy Jewel. You lock your target into a jewel contained in the shadows, removing both of you from the eyes of onlookers for 5 seconds, and allows access to stealth-based abilities. Again, another stealth-using ability that we can use in combat. If you're thinking, okay, but what does this really do? Well, imagine that you're trying to kill somebody off and they've got a bloody healer trying to heal them up when you've gotten them to 20% health and you think, right, I'm going to go in for the kill. They then have a healer. You can take them out. Nobody will be able to see you or the enemy apart from you two. That is it. The healer will not be able to help them whatsoever. Or another issue, let's turn the tables round. You actually use it on the enemy healer so that your allies can finish off the other target and the healer is taken out of the equation with nothing to do. So you really can use this in a few different ways and it's really quite sneaky. Another one that I love is Dismantle. Disarm the enemy, preventing the use of any weapons or shield for 5 seconds. Again, similar to the first one I mentioned, imagine that they're going in for their burst phase and they've popped everything, they've hit the trigger on their big cooldown abilities, and then you just disarm them and they're like, oh, well, this is awkward, isn't it? Like, wouldn't that be so annoying if someone done that to you? I would say it would be. And that's kind of why I love it, because that's what PvP is often all about. It's not just about killing a target like it is in PvE. It's really about being an annoyance to your enemy and dismantling their abilities as much as it is you trying to use yours on them. And that is the PvP talents that I personally would suggest. Now let's have a look at the Deathstalker hero talents we'll be using. So for this build, we are, of course, taking the Deathstalker hero talents. And I want to go through these in a bit more detail than the other talents, just because they're the new thing, right? And, you know, the rotation I've shown you is already including these. Don't think, oh my God, there's more to learn. This is kind of the why around the what we're doing. So it starts off with our keystone talent, Deathstalker's Mark, which looks really crazy, but it's not that complex. Shadow Strike from Stealth or Shadow Dance applies 3 stacks of Deathstalker's Mark to your target. And when you spend 5 or more combo points on a finishing move, you actually add a marked target. So it's called Deathstalker's Mark. And when you do that, it applies damage and increases the damage of your next backstab or shadow strike by 40%, but you can only have 1 marked target at a time. Going down the left then, your next Shuriken Storm, after applying that mark to them, deals an additional amount of plague damage and generates an additional combo point. Fatal Intent, your damaging abilities against enemies above 20% health have a very high chance to apply Fatal Intent. When an enemy falls below 20% health, it inflicts plague damage per stack. Then we've got an option here. This is more utility. I like to go for bait and switch, where Evasion reduces magical damage taken and Cloak of Shadows reduces physical damage taken. In the middle, we've got our auto attacks doing more damage against marked targets. Corrupt the Blood, Rupture deals an additional amount each time it deals damage, and that is going to stack, and Rupture's duration is increased. Follow the Blood, Shuriken Storm, and Black Powder deal more damage while 3 or more enemies are afflicted with your Rupture. You can also go for Momentum of Despair. If you've critically struck with Shuriken Storm, increase the critical strike chance of Shuriken Storm and Black Powder by 15%, and critical damage is increased by 12 seconds. Singular Focus, damage dealt to targets other than your marked target, deal 5% plague damage to your marked target, so damage to others, deal damage to the marked. Symbolic Victory, Symbols of Death additionally increases the damage of your next Eviscerate or Black Powder, or after Shadow Blade expires, you gain 30 seconds of 20% increased shadow damage, which is nice. Remember, this is all passively happening. And then again, another utility one. Shroud of Night increases the duration of Shroud of Concealment. If you don't need that, you can go for Shade Walker, where each time you consume a stack of Deathstalker's Mark, you reduce the cooldown of Shadow Step. Lastly, Darkest Night. When you consume the final Deathstalker's Mark from a target, or the target dies, so basically no more marks on that target, you're going to gain 40 energy, and your next Eviscerate cast with maximum combo points is guaranteed to crit. It's going to deal a massive amount of damage, and it's going to apply 3 stacks of Deathstalker's Mark, getting those stacks back up really quite quickly. And that is Deathstalker, basically applying marks to your target, doing a load of plague damage, and doing more crit and stuff like that, really. It's not as in-depth as it sounds. Now looking at the consumables and enchants, etc. we're using as a rogue, the first thing you may notice is that we now, from the weekly Great Vault, have a new way of getting gem sockets for our gear. We can add these with the Nerubian Gem Weaver on our head, waist, and wrist. It's not on this picture. And we can add 2 gem sockets to our neck and both rings now, rather than in the previous expansion where it was just 3 sockets on your neck. And that is of a magnificent jeweler's setting. So you can see 2 on the neck, 2 on the ring, and 2 on the other ring. We're going with Chant of Winged Grace on your cloak enchant, which gives avoidance and removes some fall damage. Crystalline Radiance gives agility. Armored Leech gives leech. Stormbound Armor Kit actually gives agility on the legs. Scout's March gives movement speed. I think it's 250. Mastery on the rings, and then Authority of the Depths on both of your weapons. Authority of the Depths basically means when you're damaging foes, you have a chance to do this big old dark, shadowy damage, and that can deepen, as they like to call it, on the tooltip, which I think that just means it can stack 3 times, which is pretty nice. Then looking at the actual consumables we're using, Alchemical Chaos is the best for DPS, but most people are probably going to go with Versatility for a more rounded out increase in survivability and damage. Alchemical Chaos will rotate your secondary stats. It'll add 7,000 to 1 secondary stat while taking off 600 of the other 2. But what's interesting, and that'll rotate for however long, Tempered Potion will actually add, when you use a potion, that will add to the secondary stats that you're not getting from your flask. So it's really interesting how that works. And it will still do the same thing if you use the versatility one, just it won't give versatility, it'll give the others. Healing potion is called the Algari healing potion. Iron Claw Whetstone adds attack power. It's like 500 attack power for an hour on your weapon oil. If you're using an augment rune, it's called the crystallized augment rune. And then we're using culminating blasphemites on our gems. An onyx is generally going to be the best one, but you do want to use different colored gems, apart from amber, to get the most effect out of the blasphemite. So basically, you can use a ruby, sapphire, an emerald, and an onyx. I think that's the right ones. And what it does is, so the blasphemite gives primary stat, so agility, but it also gives 0.15% critical strike effect increase per different colored gem that you're wearing. Hence why you want to wear an onyx, a sapphire, a ruby, and an emerald, and then the rest of them you can use for whatever you want to get the full effect from your epic gem. Thank you so much for watching this guide. I hope it was really useful for you in The War Within Season 1, whether it was for Mythic Plus or raiding. If you do have any questions, I'll be happy to help. My Patreon is in the description below, and that is where you can find my LVUI profiles, which I'll show you in a second. And also, I'm putting together a huge macro list for every single spec that's going to be really useful for you in The War Within as well. I am doing all classes and specs for The War Within, so if you are new to the channel, then please do click this playlist here to check out what else I have, which is all of them. There will also be PvP guides on this channel as well for War Within Season 1, so make sure to look out for that. This here is the UI that I was referring to. As you can see, we've got target frames, etc., left and right, and raid frames go in the middle here, and then weak auras in the middle with an action bar down here. Chat is behind where my camera is. Minimap and details, etc., are here on the right. All of the plater profiles, the voodoo, the LVUI, etc., details profile has all been made by me. And again, you can get this on my Patreon should you like it.